Hello, hello, hello. What's cracker lacking, cuz? Sirena Barefoot Gypsy. So, I've been getting a bunch of things, and I want to share this one with you. I was just writing and writing and writing. So, I'm not. There's a lot of stuff. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff. But, let's get into this, okay? 33. So, what I have here is ego death. It's a whole thing. I'm just going to read what I have written down because that's probably the best way to do it. Because I want all this information to come out. 55. So, and 101. So I started off with like questions like, let's take a look at what has been occurring lately. So, have you been like all over the place emotionally? 111. Repeating patterns, possibly. Hamster wheel stuff. Used to be this way in 122, and now you are of the opposite. Like, we'll get into that in a minute. In a dark place, feeling like you're in a dark place. Transformation. This is what is occurring with you, 141. So, you are mourning the death of your old self, your hurts, your traumas, ego, 151. So, the ego death in itself is a trigger. When you're 202, getting ready. Okay, let me just finish this because where was I? So the ego death in itself is a trigger. Puts ego, right, in a fight or flight mode. Ego holding on. Doesn't want to let go. Self-sabotage. I'm going to stop right there. Self-sabotage. So you're... All right, let me go on. Let me just do that. So self-sabotage. Self. Human. Wanting to keep control and stay in its happy place. Not so happy though, right? In its comfortable place, but not so comfortable. But that's all it knows. That's who you have been identifying yourself as from your trauma place, right? 303. So self-sabotage. Ego's fail-safe. It's default, if you will. 313. When we resist the temptation, whatever your self-sabotaging temptation thing is, falling back in old patterns or whatever, 322. I was supposed to say 321 as well. When we resist the temptation, which is ego trying to hold on, okay? That's what I have. When we resist the temptation, in parentheses, which is ego trying to hold on, hence self-sabotage, 343 wants to stay where it's at, doesn't like change, 345. And I have, then we lie it to rest. So 355, I'm going to skip that. I'm going to keep going for now. It's a grieving process of self. Death is emotionally painful for the survivors. 411. This is info we're getting here. How do we feel? How do you feel right now? What emotions do we go through when someone we love, someone that we're close to, dies? What do we have? We have guilt. Either survivors or, we didn't do enough, or we should have done more, should have done better, right? 434. Wow, okay, take it, whatever. There could be anger, mad that they passed away, 444. Triggers unhealthy traumas, abandonment issues, or whatever, right? So, side note, PS, right? when mothers were taken out, this is a PS, right? A side note, 505. When mothers were taken out of the home, like when they went to go work or they wanted to do, you know what I'm saying? So broke down the family dynamic, the abandonment. Abandonment could be so many different things. Anyway, sadness, shame. All the things human. It's like my feathers, I just made them. I made them from an outfit. I got the gray. Can't see the gray. So ego death looks a lot like a death of a loved one. Yep. Same thing. Part of you, which you used to identify you as, it's dead, gone, and buried. Or you can resurrect it. Give it CPR. You performed CPR and brought it back to life. Self-sabotage. Bringing it back to life when you are trying to release it. It's dying. You're letting it go. It's death. It's an ego death, and it wants to hang on. Lie it to rest. And this is where the choice comes in. So once you recognize that you're doing self-sabotaging things again, you already know that something is just around the corner. Things are going so great for me, I'm going to fuck it up. And we call it self-sabotage, so we beat ourselves up. And that's the ego's way of staying in its comfortable place and keeping you there. Think about it. So we begin to recognize when these self-sabotaging actions, traits, what have you, show its ugly face. This is the crucial part. This is go ahead or repeat choice. Go to the next grade or repeat it or be held back. Okay, thinking in terms of school, right? Or repeat it. I heard uncharted waters, sailing into the unknown, being born into something new. So it's uncharted waters, right? You're healing this. So a part of your identity that you have held on to that made who you thought you are up until this point. Holding on to that, right? But it's ego death. So when it's the light is okay, let me get into this next part. Shining the light on the dark. Looking at it, exposing it, coming face to face with it, shining the light and exposing the effery, right? But this is 808, all in your own human. When we expose face, when we bring it to light, it's now exposed, out in the open. This is when the choice comes in. Either cover it up, bring it back to life, give it CPR, not look at it, put it back in the dark so you can continue. So ego feels comfortable in its uncomfortability. Or keep it exposed in the light. Once we see it, identify it, look at it, that's when change happens. But you have the choice. It's the contrast. We can change it, heal it, release it. No longer has a hold on you. Exposing the hidden. Uncovering the truth. So I thought that was great, the 911. The way God brought it to me as self-sabotaging is... Because, when you're getting ready to go through a great breakthrough or level up or healing things, it's always darkest before dawn, I heard, 929, right? So, why do I always do this every time? I know everything's going good and then I fuck it up. F it up. Every time, F it up. When am I going to stop effing it up? Well, recognizing what it is and seeing it, and that's part of the journey. Because as you begin to recognize it and expose it, then you begin to recognize it more and more, and it becomes faster, you know what I mean? Before eventually that part 1001. If you choose, this is where the choice comes in. This is where, hey, I am going through I know I'm growing, I know I'm learning, I know I'm going through this, it's that temptation. It's your ego trying to tempt you to stay back where it's comfortable. 1022, and you really just want to go on. 1021, I was supposed to say. And then I saw 1022, so I said that, but exposing it. The contrast, 1033. The contrast. You wonder what I'm looking at? The clock timer. It's the contrast. That's why we self-sabotage. We've got to look at things in a different way, because we're experiencing an ego death of the most personal and intimate kind, because it's of you. A programming, a trauma that was allowed to happen to your human, which you need to get past. I was channeled, hell earlier. Human experiencing the lack of love. Hell. Anyway, just take a look at that. Next time you're growing and you get into that mindset and you notice yourself starting to have self-sabotaging thoughts before you even do anything or whatever, once that becomes to light and it's brought to your attention, this is when we stop and ask ourselves, ooh, I have a choice right now. I'm just going to hold out one day, or whatever game or whatever you have to do with yourself to get past your temptation of whatever self-sabotaging things you're about to do. Your ego wants to stay there. It doesn't want to leave. It doesn't want to die. It doesn't want to die. It wants to live through you. But you're like, no, ego, you've got to go now. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was great. I really love that, because it puts a different perspective on it, to a way that it's not self-defeating anymore. Now it's, for me anyway, now it's like, oh, it's not because I'm not worthy, see, that's another thing. The unhealed trauma places, that shows you too, because we're used to being that way. It's a programmed way of being. So now you're like going into uncharted waters, sailing into the unknown. Letting go of that part is difficult. Just like losing a loved one. We hang on and we miss and we grieve and we're sorry and we use 1313 and we use it and we dwell on it and we talk about it and we're sad. We just miss. That's how your ego feels about it dying. And you identified with that. So who are you going to be when you're not this trauma? Even though you weren't aware of it, unconsciously you're running around reacting from your unhealed traumas, from your ego, from your human, from the sin, if you will. The knowledge of knowing both sides. When you have the knowledge of both sides, right and wrong, light and dark, blah, 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 all of it, you're accountable. Maybe God was trying to save us from that. You think? But human had to do it their own way. Maybe it was meant that way. Just because it's a game and it's a story or Matrix or whatever, let's look at it differently. So God's showing me, like, it's part of it. You wanted to come here. This was your part to do. I just heard, well, maybe some of you had to, and I heard like it's a prison planet, but I don't know. It's a battlefield. It's like the last chance. The last chance, 1444, to reprieve yourself is what I'm getting. Like a fallen angel, like, can you get back in heaven? Can you earn your wings back? Get it right. Do something different this time. Don't be all about self and and eat of this world. Anything fleshly, it's okay to have those things, but it's not important to you anymore because you're not living by your flesh. You're living by your soul. I love you guys. I'm going to let you go. I have a bunch of downloads, but I want to watch Matrix Revolutions. I just watched Matrix Reloaded the other night. Holy shiznit. Can you say, what? The architect? And the other fucking guy that had the keymaker, keymaster, keymaker, I think, held captive or whatever. Yeah. So, ego death. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But it's simplistic. When you take the whole thing that seems so chaotic and everything, and you break it down, I just heard into like small little blocks, like like when I write like that. I love how they have me channel things, because I just heard simplistic. It takes all the out of it. Pop, lets all the air out of it, and it's like, oh, that's it? Wow, okay. That's all. So ego death, it's a whole thing. And you become stronger. And like muscle memory, like working out with weights or whatever, like you get stronger, right? You build muscle. So you'll build a different pathway in your head. You're building muscle in a sense, you know what I mean? You're creating new muscle. You're creating new pathways are opening up, and then you begin to live in a different space, in a different place, and everything around you changes because you're changing on the inside. And the temptations become easier depending on where you're at, what your path, whatever. The recognizing of it, recognizing it. Recognition, whatever I said. It just becomes, I heard habitual, like anything else you learn, right? It took practice. It took you a long time to get to where you're at, Some of us are in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I don't know if anyone that old watches me, but that young, society. Yeah, but I want to get to this movie. I got to cook dinner soon, so ciao, baby, and lay your ego to rest peacefully. The contrast, so you can make a choice by knowing both sides. So it's not like you have door number 1 and you have door number 2, but you only know one of them. You don't have a contrast. How can you really make a decision? The other door could be worse or better. You don't know. You know what I mean? So contrast is there. Duality is there for us to look at so we can make a choice by knowing both sides, and we can make an educated, thought out choice. It's all about choice. Namaste, 1844. Peace. See you on the flip side. And stay prayed up. Say thank you to God. Thank you, God. It's today Tuesday. Oh, man. I can't remember if I called it Talk It Out Tuesday or... I don't know. Don't matter. Peace and hair grease.